Welcome to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast, brought to you by www.legaladviceinparadise.com. Even in one of the most beautiful places in the world, life can be litigious. On this podcast, the best and brightest legal minds gather to help you navigate your way through every legal question you may face. This program will help you know your rights, know what steps to take, and help you find the best legal representation, all in simple, easy to understand terms. And now, here's your host, Justine Gronwald.
Aloha, and thank you for tuning in to our next podcast episode. Want to make sure you never miss an episode, as well as get tips on how to hire an attorney and be eligible for monthly prizes? It's easy. Just join our free membership called the Agent of Change membership. Text your name and your email to area code 808-670-3400. Make sure you text back agree. And also, to check out our past episodes, just log into www.legaladviceinparadisepodcast.com. Now enjoy the next episode. Aloha.
So now you might be faced with that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've had cases like that where it's been 3 years since the child has been taken away from you.
Wow.
And you've had limited contact with the child because you got to go through all these services. They got to make sure that, you're fit and proper, but more importantly, that the health and well-being of the child is okay. And they're not quite satisfied that you can be alone with this kid.
Yeah.
And let's just say you really make that change after 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for 3 years, this child has not lived with you at all, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Bonding with his foster parent. It's part of their family now.
Yeah.
What is the court going to do? Wait another 2 years for you to maybe get it all together?
Mm-hmm.
In regards to finding a job, a place for this child to stay, and you being able to raise the child.
Yeah, tough.
So you lose your parental rights, that's forever.
Wow.
You don't get your parental rights reinstated.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's forever.
Yeah.
So I've seen cases I've presided over cases like that,
Yeah.
I presided over a case once where this dad, he had to get treatment, okay? If he didn't get treatment, his rights were going to get terminated. So he came in on a bench warrant because he didn't go he didn't go to the drug treatment program. He came in, I said exactly what I just told you. If you don't go get treatment, you're going to lose, you're going to lose your parental rights.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what he chose? I give him up. Take my parental rights.
Oh no.
Oh, yeah. So you ask what the consequences are. Those are the consequences.
Yeah.
But you can see how, the state that they're in, whether it's addiction or whether it's financial, whatever it is, can cause things like this to happen. So, that's just two instances. There's many other instances where if you want to know what the long-term effect is. I mean, it's very devastating either way.
Yeah, having your parental rights taken away, I had no idea.
Well, you're a parent, I'm a parent.
Yeah.
That's something that we think about, right?
Yeah.
Your children are invaluable, right? They're priceless. There's no
Right.
price on a child, especially when you're a parent.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you just opened my eyes. I don't know about the listeners out there, but I had no idea that that could be taken away.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's good because part of the show is about what the consequences are from our decisions.
But when you're in that state of addiction or whatever else it might be, maybe you just financially you're just out. Okay, you might not be addicted, but you're just out. You make these kind of decisions. Like the guy I just told you about, where it's, basically, go ahead, take my parental rights.
For the interest of the child?
Well, no, because you're just not there at that point. You're not thinking.
Yeah.
You're not thinking in the right mind. What's your priority? Your priority is not the child. Your priority is you.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, am I getting fulfilled? From a substance point, from a financial point, and for even some women and men, it's from a relationship point. In other words, I'd rather have this woman than that woman. If that means my child, I take this woman or I take this man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it all depends on where you're at that point in time. Right. So you and I can sit here and say, "Whoa, man, that's You got to be thinking of those consequences. They don't think like that.
Yeah.
It's like when somebody commits a crime. That's why I'm saying, you and I were talking off the air about deterrence.
Yeah.
You know, jail was supposed to be a deterrent. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Well, people still commit murders. People still rob.
Mm-hmm.
Penalties are immense. You can lose your freedom for life. You can get
Right.
jailed. You can put in. So the question then becomes, the way you put it is, okay, are they thinking about that when
Yeah.
they're about to pull the trigger and shoot somebody?
No.
When they're about to rob somebody or break into a home, are they thinking about the consequences?
No.
Most times they're not.
Yeah.
Most times they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. The only difference, like I said, for me, and because it is a criminal offense, is DUIs, driving under the influence of an intoxicating liquor. I really believe that the people who are involved in that, they have a concept of deterrence.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that evening, the alcohol takes over a
Right.
little bit more.
Yeah.
But they have a little bit more remorse.
We discussed that at length about
a little bit more. They have a little bit more remorse, and it serves as a deterrent for some of them. So some of them, more and more people you're seeing now are saying, "I'll get a designated driver,
Yeah.
or I'll call a cab,
Let's get D squared.
or I'll call a cab."
Yeah.
Right. So,
That's good.
yeah. So
More awareness.
yeah. So it's working in that
Yeah.
respect.
Well, let's shift gears, and I'm going to go into you being a leader. You're a natural leader with multiple leadership roles in all that we spoke about, being a judge and prosecutor, attorney, and 8 years as lieutenant governor. What inspires you to be a leader and wanting to be involved in all these areas and activities?
Well, I don't believe that there's any one thing that inspires anyone to be a leader. I think, and I'm not saying that leaders are natural. What I'm saying is this: I believe leadership is within all of us, and I say that because throughout all of these years, I'm getting a little older now. I'm probably in my last season of life right now. But what I've noticed with people in positions of leadership is that the good ones, the ones that are truly what I would call, basically bona fide leaders, is that they understand that the true measure of leadership is influence.
Mm-hmm.
And influence is not dependent upon a position or a title. It's really about your attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And so I consider you a leader. I consider, a lot of other people out there leaders, because you have that right disposition. You have that right attitude in regards to influencing others. Whether you know it or not, you are influencing everybody every day. So you're a leader.
Wow.
And with
That's good
that,
to know.
and with that, basically comes again trust.
Right.
People trust you. Your influence is that much greater.
Mm-hmm.
So in this world today, people are really looking for leaders, people of influence,
Mm-hmm.
who have integrity,
Right.
who have principles,
Mm-hmm.
who have values, who have a moral compass,
Mm-hmm.
because they see too much of that not happening right now.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, because you mentioned, I'm served as an elected public, servant.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them just don't have that, because they're worried
integrity.
about the next election.
Mm-hmm.
So they're worried about how am I going to get that next vote,
Mm.
instead of just saying, well, this is something that I ran on.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I said I was going to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to do it. So that's why they call it, this term flip-flop is really something I think has come from the political field.
Yeah.
People are flip-flopping.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just don't, they go, what promise? I didn't make that promise. So that's not what I said.
Right.
So, basically they call that, how are you spinning that,
Right.
that.
And people get
yeah,
sound bites of it.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, I that's what I believe what's been a part of me. So you can call it leadership, but I look at it as just I've been in positions of influence.
Mm-hmm.
I influence a lot of people in the
Mhm.
positions that I've been in, and I'm just
Right.
blessed to be in those. So I didn't look at it as like, I want to be a leader in the judiciary or in the legal profession, or I want to be, as a public servant, an elected public servant, I'm going to be a leader. I look at it just as a position where, again, people elected me, I was in that position. So now, how am I going to influence them? How am I going
Mhm.
to influence people, in Hawaii, in Honolulu, in Maui, or wherever it is?
Right.
What kind of trust can I give to them?
Mm-hmm.
So it was the same thing when being on the bench. It was all about trust, and
Right.
if they didn't trust me,
Because that's a lot of broken and injured people
exactly,
that go in there.
and a lot of them, you're right,
They don't have trust for anything at
exactly.
that point.
They got no trust and no respect,
Right.
right? So how do I get trust from them? I got to show them respect. So when they come into my courtroom, I got to make sure that
And
they.
that's just the opposite of what people think would be done. I mean, like, you got the position of judge. You could, like, just run right over them.
Exactly. So they
you
look
know?
at you like that. So when they come in, they're already hesitant because they're looking at you and they're going, "Oh, this guy, I got to be nice to this guy because he can just do whatever he wants." Which is, for their lives, maybe at that point in time, maybe that may be true, but that's not how I ever looked at it. I always looked at, okay, how do I make this a fair and impartial proceedings? Just like what we were designed to be. I represented the judiciary. It wasn't about Judge Aiona and his courtroom. It was about, okay, I represent the judiciary. People come to the legal system looking for justice.
And they're probably very surprised.
And what is
What they
justice?
found.
What is justice? Justice is fairness. And so when you walk out, I'm not going to always make a decision in your favor. But when you walk out, I want to make sure that you feel like, you know what? He listened. He heard what I had to say. And even though I don't agree with it, I can understand his decision. Because I gave it to him fair, and I gave it to him, in language that they could understand, and in a way that, they
I think that's really
Yeah.
important, because even just coming to the level of looking for an attorney and you don't know the language, and you feel, I just come up with this word intimidated in this whole sphere of anything to do with law and stuff like that. I think most people feel that way. But if they're made to feel, oh yeah, okay, I understand what's going on. Okay, I can handle this. I understand what I did, and I understand why he, judge, made a decision in this manner. Because you made it very plain and clear.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That's
and
good.
I've always believed that, more so when I was on the bench, that if I was going to explain something, I wanted to make sure that they understood what I said. Because if they didn't, then I didn't do my job. I didn't do my job. And
Right.
likewise with my decision, if they didn't understand my decision, then I didn't do my job. Because I'm not there to just kind of say, okay, this is my decision, take it or leave it. No, that's not the right way to do it. I made a decision, you don't agree with it, okay, I can appreciate that, as long as you can appreciate why I did what I had to do. And of course, in the legal, in the judiciary, you always have a right to appeal. So if you don't agree with my decision, you can always appeal it. So there's always that recourse that you have.
Yeah. Well, with your past experience of Lieutenant Governor for 8 years, we see a natural progression to run for governor. So on that, give us some of the highlights of what your vision is for the future of Hawaii as the next governor.
People think that, because you're a lieutenant governor, the next step is to be governor.
Yeah.
And, I may have had some of that thought when I ran in 2010. And, but I really don't feel that way. I don't feel like, just because I was lieutenant governor, it's like an entitlement. Please, I hope people don't get that impression, because that's not why I'm running. I'm running because this time, for the second time, is because I really know, and I believe, and it's more than belief, I know that I have the skills and the knowledge and experience to be governor of the state of Hawaii, and do a good job in being governor of the state of Hawaii. And I believe that I owe it to the people of Hawaii to give back, what I was blessed to have for 8 years as LG. Because as LG, Lieutenant Governor, this is really your role. And this is within the Lieutenant Governor's circle. This is common with everyone. Our role is basically this: we're one heartbeat away from being governor of the state that we represent.
Exactly.
That's really our role. So what does that mean? We got to be prepared. And I was fortunate to have a governor that basically made sure that I was prepared. Doesn't mean that I was in lockstep with her in all the decisions that she made. Because that's one thing you got to understand too as LG. It's her administration.
Yeah.
She's the governor. I'm not the governor, okay? So she makes the decisions. Some people, they'll say, well, you were the LG, so what did you do?
Yeah.
Well, that's not my administration. That's not my, I don't make the final decisions. The governor does. I'm a part of this executive branch, and my role is what I just told you it was, and I understand that. And if I'm going to be a good team player, I'm going to understand that, and I will support her accordingly.
Right.
So she makes a decision. I don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go out there and bash her and say, well, this is what I would do if I was governor.
Mm-hmm.
No, I support her, and I try my best to make sure that what she wants is implemented in the best way it can.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a matter of all of that, and just seeing where we are right now as a state, saying I can do the job. And so my vision really is about what we talked about a little earlier in regards to trust.
Trust.
Right now, a lot of people don't trust.
Yeah.
Don't trust their elected should be public servants, not public officials.
Yeah.
They don't trust them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? And that's because really, especially this past year, I think I heard a lot of it from people out there who say, we're not getting any respect, as you mentioned, for the people, by the people, right?
Right.
They're not getting any respect from their elected public servants.
Mm-hmm.
They're either not listening to them, they're either doing things that are not transparent. In other words, what's going on? Well, we didn't know that was going on, right? Or they're just waiting to the last minute, and then something pops up and they say, okay, this is the way it's going to be. Or there's a flip-flop. They said this earlier and now they're doing this. So they feel like they're not getting any respect at all. So there's no trust.
Right.
And when you got no trust for your elected public servants, and they're giving you no respect, what does that mean? You got imbalance.
Right.
There's no balance in government.
Right.
So as such, you get lousy legislation, you get bad policy, and you just get junk government. I'll just put it that way. You get junk government.
Yeah, make it plain. Junk.
Yeah, you just get junk government. So, part of my vision is to bring this back.
The balance.
To bring back balance, trust, and respect, right? I mean, and let the people know that, hey, your voice will be heard. Doesn't mean we're going to agree, but your voice will be heard. I respect what you have to say. Why? Because I'm serving you. Even if you didn't vote for me, I'm serving you, right? I'm serving everybody. We all have differences. But if there's anything I've learned along the way, as you noted, as an attorney, as a judge, mainly as a judge, I've learned how to have the kind of objectivity and independence and fairness that needs to be given to everyone, not just because you gave me money or you voted for me.
I see how that ties in.
Yeah.
Your base, where you came from, you're in there working with the people. I mean, the people are the ones that vote, and because I was going to say, I was going to get to the next one, by equipping people with knowledge that I keep talking about and their rights, and letting them know that they have a voice in decision making. I was going to ask you, what are your views on people's involvement to stand up and make their voices known? Because after all, shouldn't we have a government that is of, by, and for the people, and not the other way around? So you kind of touched on that.
Exactly.
And maybe can expound on that.
Exactly. Well, it's the empowerment part is just that.
Yeah.
People today, the voters today, the public today, don't feel like they're empowered.
Do you think they know? I mean.
Well, I think I can say that with some authority by just looking at the percentage of people who vote.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. and why is that? Well, there's one of the reasons is because of what you just said, empowered. Do they feel like they're empowered? No, they don't.
They don't feel it makes a difference.
Exactly, because of what I said in regards to getting respect. They're not listening to me.
So why should I?
So why should I vote? Exactly.
Right.
So why should I vote? I don't feel like I'm empowered. They all do the same thing. They say one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Tell me the statistics for Hawaii's voting record.
Okay, so last election, 2012, I believe we had a little less, or maybe just slightly over 60% of the voters, okay, which was kind of high, but that still was lowest in the country.
Oh, lowest in the country.
Yeah, in 2010, I believe it was below 50%, or just above 50%.
Yeah. Can you give me demographics of which age didn't vote the most? Is it the younger ones?
It's the younger ones, yeah.
They're pretty, they call it Gen X, or maybe there's another name for the even younger ones, but they're kind of like whatever, right? That's their attitude. And so I guess, like you said, we got to reach the young ones.
Well,
it's kind of like along the lines of trying to get the kids off alcohol. It's like you got to get the younger ones to understand what voting is about.
Part of it too is empowering them, right? Okay.
Yeah.
but also it starts with the families. In other words, you know, letting them, giving them priorities. And a priority for you, young man or young woman, is that you engage in civic responsibility. Jury service.
You know what? I don't think
jury service. How about jury service? How about stuff like that? How about just voting?
I don't think
right
these
to vote?
conversations happen at home.
They don't,
I mean, it never did in our home.
and it should, right?
And
it should.
you know, it's not taught in schools that, you know, okay, let's get the family involved and have them understand how important it is. And
So I ask you, what did we just celebrate? What holiday did we just
Memorial.
celebrate? Memorial Day.
yeah,
And what's one of the things that, you know, you keep hearing every Memorial Day? That these men and women gave their lives
give their lives
so that we could what? We could have the freedoms
we
that
could
we
have
have.
the freedom.
And what's one of the rights that we have today?
Voting.
Exactly.
So these people shouldn't die in vain.
Exactly.
We should exercise our rights.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
See, and it's coming from someone my age, which is like, we're gonna say how old we are, but
But I mean,
still,
you know,
these conversations are just not hell. I mean, wow, there should be some. Now I got my wheels turning, people. I'm like going off track, but it's like something should be put together to just educate people just for that. You know, is there anything like that out there?
there are programs out there. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I tried to bring. I'm trying to start a mentoring program
Is
for
this the
Ho'omauike.
Ho'omauike?
So trying to bring
Yeah.
together young men and women who between the ages of 20 and 25, and you know, share with them my experiences, and hopefully that will inspire them. But more importantly, it will engage them. You know, will engage them in the process. And the process is not just on the political side, but just in life in general. And, you know, getting involved in whether it's community service.
Oh, that was my next
You know.
question for you. How would you encourage and advise someone who wants to jump into community service because they want to be agents of change? And this program sounds like it's something
Yeah.
that will start that, because people usually don't know where to start and maybe intimidated
It's
to follow
very
the
simple.
call.
You just you can just look around you, and most everything that we see needs our participation in it. Whether it's the homeless, whether it's the addict, whether it's the child, whether it's the family, they all need support, right? We have big brothers and big sisters.
Right.
We got NA, okay?
Yeah.
You know, we got soup kitchens that basically feed the homeless and you know, clothe the homeless. So there's multiple ways of getting involved from a community, you know, in a community effort. We have Habitat for Humanity, building homes for people. So there's many groups out there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of finding which one basically, you know, is your chili, and getting involved and just
Yes.
taking that step and getting involved. I can say there's no better feeling than to be a public, you know, to basically get involved in some kind of community effort, and you'll see the results of it, and that's all you need. You don't need to get paid for it. You don't need to get basically acknowledged for it. It's just knowing that you serve. I mean, even if it's just like giving food, you know, giving food to the food bank, starting something like that, maybe a food drive at your church or at your workplace or wherever it is, doing something like that. I mean, that's community service. That's giving back. And so it doesn't take much. You don't need money. You don't need to be in a position of authority to get involved. Everybody
just
can,
little
and they
things.
should, and that's what it's going to take. Anything that we have in this community that needs that we would identify as an issue, right? So you ask people, okay, so what's the most pressing problem? Oh, homelessness, okay, cost of living, affordable housing, et cetera, et cetera. All of that, or whether it's the environment, all of that, there's groups that are trying to work to make it happen, to make it better. So just get involved by just getting more knowledge. As you said, that's what this program's all about.
Yeah.
So educate yourself. In today's world, you got technology, you got Google, okay?
Yeah.
You know, I always say check the source, but at least it's a start.
Right.
Much easier than when you and I growing up. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
I think, you know, back when I was growing up, you're a little bit younger than me, but we
Not
go
that
to
much.
we go to the library.
Library.
And we had index cards
Right.
that you got to look
I
at
remember.
to go get an article to find out what's going on.
Right.
Now they do it right here. You can
On
do
the
it right
on the
now.
cell phone.
Yeah, you can do it right now.
Yeah.
Just
Google.
Google.
Yeah.
That's what's incredible what they have now. So they should be much more knowledgeable. than what we are. And I think they are for the most part, but only because of that Google.
Yeah.
A lot of them still can't do long math, but
Yeah.
anyway, you know, but yeah, that's how you get involved.
You know what's still on the forefront of my mind is the family having a discussion about people exercising their freedom to vote. I don't know why that is so prevalent
Because
for me right
you know why?
now.
Because it's that simple.
It's that simple.
Yeah, it's that simple.
Wow.
And families just don't do that.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, I know you have children. Like I said, I have children. You know, I never really had that sit down and you know talk about okay, what's a civic responsibility like voting. But here's what I did. I voted in every single election. I talk about it. So I'm hoping that my example, my model,
Right.
you know, will be enough, because I can tell you this, again, this is anecdotally, this is just from experience, but, you know, example is probably a language that's universal.
Yeah.
In many ways, as a parent, you know this, you can have the greatest lecture, the greatest speech, what you think. 9 times out of 10, your children are not even listening.
Right.
Because that would happen a lot of times. They come home, oh, guess what, Dad? We had this speaker. Oh, good. What did he talk about? Oh, he talked about this. I said, well, that's what I've been trying to tell you guys for the last year. But it came from somebody else.
Right.
But what they do follow is they do follow your example. Yeah. Right. I mean, now my children are older, so we're getting grandchildren now. And so now when it comes to raising their children, what are they doing? They're doing what we did.
Right.
I see it. They're doing what we did. So I didn't sit down and tell them, okay, this is how you raise a child, or
It's
this is
the
what we
example.
did. They just saw us doing it, and that's what sticks in their mind.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
it's
out
not,
there,
it's
listeners,
not
parents.
Always, yes, it's not always about this.
Yeah.
It's
It's
really
what you
it's
do.
really about how you live your life, right? You know, it's how
And
you live it.
you live how you live your life. You know, as someone who's in serving the community, people are watching.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's again,
That comes
maybe I
down
was
to
blessed. Maybe I was blessed because I've always had, ever since I got appointed, you know, you could say I kind of lived in a glass bowl, because now I represent law. I represent the judiciary. I gotta live a much better. I'm not perfect. Believe me, there's many things that you know that is not a perfect example. But knowing that, I'm more cognizant of what I'm doing, and obviously, you know, which is right, the right thing to do. So a lot of times you do something, because there's another little thing, you know, integrity is integrity, right? Theft of $1 or theft of $1 million is still theft,
Exactly.
you know? So I used to do this one. I used to say, okay, so how many, when I speak to young parents or parents and children, I'd say, okay, so how many of you over here follow the speed limit? And you see the kids looking at the parents, right? And of course, nobody. And I say, I violate it. I raise my hand. I say, I do. I go over the speed limit. But see, what kind of example are we setting for our children?
Right. Everything.
Because we're telling them that, hey, yeah, I know it's 35, but I'm going 50 anyway. So your kid's watching that. So what do you think your kid's going to do when they drive?
Yeah.
They're going to go 15
figure
to 35. They're
yeah.
going to go 15 to 35 because, hey, well, my mom did it, my dad did it. Well, you know, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
So, again, I'm not perfect, but I'm just saying that you know, this is how, you know, you ask about how do we get people to get out there and volunteer. You know, how do we get people to get involved? Just be good models, be good examples. They see you volunteering, they're going to volunteer, right? Because they know it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's
So-
just my 2 cents on that.
No, but I think this was a great conversation, and I think a lot of people have gotten a peek into what it's like to be in the judiciary seat, because you had the bird's eye view, not just, you know, oh man, I got to go to court, and you just see that person's side of it.
Yeah.
There's both sides to it, and
It's much different when you are a jurist, like I was, a judge, as opposed to being an advocate, like attorneys are. The bottom line is attorneys are advocates. They're advocates for their
okay.
clients, so they have to advocate their case. Most attorneys are going to tell you, I'm objective. I see both sides. I'm only doing what's fair. Believe me, when you sit as a jurist, as a judge, you know that the best intentions of most attorneys are to be, you know, a fair and impartial advocate. But the bottom line is they're still advocates,
yeah,
and so they may have that intention, but I can tell you right now, attorneys are biased because they have to be.
They
That's
represent
their client, right?
Yeah,
And again, I hate to say it, but they are driven by monetary benefit. In other words,
And that's why
there's
everyone
money
said-
to get out of this thing.
Yeah, and that's why
they gotta get their
everyone
fees.
said, wow, if you take this to court, the only people that make money are the attorneys.
And that's true. In many instances, I've seen that, and not attorneys, again, I'm not bashing attorneys. I'm saying most attorneys are cognizant of that. But again, they gotta make a living, and they are a profession that's highly trained, highly skilled, and well deserving of compensation. But there
'Cause
are a lot of cases in which it is driven by money, and unfortunately, those are the cases that make the headlines, and so you see it. And those are the attorneys that give the profession a bad reputation. But for the most part, like I said, attorneys are true to their profession. But again, I'm just saying that they are advocates. So the perspective that I have is much different, and there's not a whole lot of judges out there. We have a limited amount of state judges, and so we're I guess you could say a smaller group of a profession that is again highly skilled and highly trained, but more importantly have a tremendous responsibility to the community. So I think there's much more respect, and rightly so, for judges than there are maybe for somebody else in that profession.
Well, this has been very, very interesting because we get to know the Duke Aiona that really doesn't tell his story. But I thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing that, taking your time out because you're busy with your campaign and everything. So I'm very appreciative, and I'm pretty sure everybody else is too for
Well, thank
sharing
you.
your time.
Thank you.
But
And
anyway,
good
we-
luck to you, and thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
this to the
And we
community.
say aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you for listening to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast. For more information, visit www.legaladviceinparadise.com.